Hey everyone, welcome back to Project Prime. Today we're going to be reviewing the Xbox Elite Series Core controller. I've had this controller for over 3 years now, and I've used it extensively over the last few years, and I've gone through several of them. So my goal for this video is to share my honest thoughts and opinions on the controller, whether it's worth the investment for its features and the value it provides. So let's get right into the video. First, let's talk about price. The Elite controller retails for around $150 on average, but right now it's currently on sale on Amazon for $137. The price is definitely something worth considering because the price is quite substantial to a basic controller, and getting it on sale is something I recommend. I've gotten most of my Elite controllers over the years on sale, so I definitely recommend you check out the link in the description box below where you can get the latest price for the controller on Amazon and you can compare that to other retailers. I just want to quickly go over the features of the Elite controller that kind of stand out to me and I think are providing the most value compared to a regular controller. The first thing that kind of points out to most people is the adjustable tension on the thumbsticks. So you can actually swap out your thumbsticks and change them out over time. If you want different heights, you can go with different attachments that will attach to this. Something to note is that the old generation thumbsticks from the original Elite series will not work on this controller. This has a 3-prong design and the old one has a 4, so it just will not fit on there, unfortunately, unless you modify them, of course. Also, being able to use that tension key to change the tension on the controller is a nice feature because when you are changing out your thumbsticks, you might want to have a little bit of a tighter feel or looser feel depending on what you're using. The next feature is the adjustable triggers. Underneath the controller, there are 2 portions on the controller that you can slide up and down to a shorter feeling trigger, and then if you slide it all the way up towards the trigger, it gives you the full depression of the trigger. What this gives you is an advantage because there's less travel time needed for the trigger to be activated. So in time-based games, you're going to be able to hit that RT trigger that split second faster than your opponent and hopefully give you an edge. Also, in some games when you're constantly tapping repeatedly the trigger, this can reduce fatigue on the fingers, etc. One of the features that actually provide a lot of value to me is the ability for button mapping. You guys can actually store 3 profiles on the controller. You can cycle through it by hitting the button underneath the Xbox power button there, underneath those 2 buttons, and it will cycle through the 3 profiles that are on the controller. Mind you, you can take this with you and have those 3 profiles with you when you go to a friend's house or you go on vacation, which is really nice. And you can be on someone else's Xbox and still have that all set up. But with that being said, on your own Xbox, you can have multiple profiles that you can swap in and out on the controller. Of course, we have the USB charging port, which is a huge upgrade from the old micro USBs that you've seen on other controllers. When they switched over to USB, it's just a more modern, more effective way of charging, and it seems to be more stable and less likely to break compared to other charging methods we have. As well as we have the dots at the bottom there where you can use the charging dock to actually charge the controller. So if the USB goes on it and it eventually doesn't work, you can simply put it on the charging dock and that will last you a very, very long time. My second Elite controller core that I had, this version, the USB did go on it because I used to charge it all the time and wiggle on it and pull it and drop it, and it just died because I didn't treat it very well. Now, with that being said, I was still able to charge the controller using the charging dock, which was very efficient. Fortunately, the next feature about this controller is the long battery life. So I didn't have to charge it that frequently. I game hours and hours and hours on end, and this barely ever gets charged. It's almost like a computer mouse where you don't have to charge it that frequently. Even though it has the vibrations and the lights and stuff like that, it definitely does not need to be charged that frequently. And there's even settings in your custom profiles that allow you to decrease the brightness of the button so it actually lasts even a little bit longer, and you can customize the vibration intensity to also save you on some battery life. And then of course it's compatible with Xbox and with PC, has that like Bluetooth feature, so if I want to hop on my PC and play a game on controller and just be chilling, I can. And I think that's really nice that it has that Bluetooth capability. A lot of the newer controllers coming out have that, but comparing to some competitors, they don't. But there are some key things that I think a lot of people overlook when they don't have a Elite controller, or if they go get an Elite controller and lose out, they miss these capabilities. So the first one is the profiles feature. The ability to switch between the 3 profiles on the controller is a game changer. For example, I can have my builds on Fortnite mapped to the 4 paddles on the back, and that just gives me a significant advantage in the game. And then say my friends want to switch off Fortnite and go to Call of Duty, obviously I don't want my paddles bound to builds because those are on my LT and RT and my fingers are already going to be there. So I have them mapped to my A, B, Y, and X, which means I don't have to take my thumbs off the thumbstick while playing Call of Duty, which gives me a significant advantage. But I don't have to go in and change any settings at this point. It's a simple click of one button. I change over and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to play Call of Duty with these new binds that I used and set up months and years ago for Call of Duty. And then you also technically have a 4th one where it completely disables the paddles, which is really nice when you're playing a new game and you don't know what you want to bind your paddles to. You don't want them active. You can disable them or you can remove them completely. And that kind of ties into the next feature that doesn't come with the core because the paddles don't actually come with this controller. You have to buy the paddles separately. Unlike the predecessors of this controller, it came with paddles. You can buy third-party paddles on Amazon for like 12 bucks, 11 bucks, and that's what I ended up doing. Once you have them, they're there. They're part of your controller. Not having them feels like you're playing with one hand behind your back. They do take a while to get used to, and I know a lot of players that buy this controller and don't use the paddles. You are missing out. Take the time to get used to them. Play a story game and just bind them to the under paddles, you know, the A, B, where you're selecting what sentence you want to say, where it's not time-based and competitive. Play a fun game where it's not competitive and get used to those binds on your free time, and you will definitely get used to them and you will miss them once you start using them in competitive games like Fortnite, COD, Halo, any of those games, Helldivers, it doesn't matter. You're going to love these paddles. They give you such an advantage that it's hard to go without them once you have them. So the paddles are probably my #1 feature on this controller, and they work very well. I've only had one error with the controller. With one of my under paddles, it stopped working. I don't know why. It was the first time. I had the first Elite controller, the Elite Series controller, and then I've had 3 or 4 of these, and this was the first time a paddle stopped working, so that was very strange. Small thing I really like about this controller is the knurl on the rubber. If you look at the past few renditions of this controller, especially the first Elite controller, the knurl would get very dirty. Like, it just would hold all the gunk and stuff like that. And for a white controller, it stays relatively clean. I show you here my other controller where it's really nasty because I hadn't cleaned it like in the last year, so it has stuff all gunked up in there. And I'm a gamer, and I know a lot of your controllers look like this too. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm the only one here, and I didn't take care of it that well, and it got very grimed up and gross. So you can see the spots where it gets dirty, and the knurl, the black part, is really not a high pressure part where it's getting really gnarly from food particles and dead skin. The old Elite controller, it was a nightmare. So a much better upgrade for this controller compared to the old on the knurl. And of course the battery life, it's invaluable. I hate changing out batteries. I hated having the battery packs. I hated all of that. Being able to have the battery pack integrated with the controller, I was way afraid. I was like, no, when the battery starts going on it, we're gonna have to constantly have to charge it and blah blah blah. That is not the case with this controller. The battery that is in this controller is of high quality and it has lasted me. I've never had a problem with the controller not being charged frequently. I probably only have to charge this once a week, and I can charge while I play, so it's really not a big deal. And that's because I play a lot. If you're a casual, play on the weekend and maybe one day during the week guy, you'll probably charge this thing like once a month. It's crazy. 40 hours lifespan is definitely pretty accurate of what you're getting on this controller. So let's talk about the things I don't like. The first thing that really stands out to me with this controller after having so many of them is the LB and RB buttons, the bumpers. The RB and LB buttons will completely stop working after some time, and this is a common issue with the Elite controller. This is actually very frustrating because it is supposed to be a premium product, and for it to be breaking down on something that's a simple mechanical error consistently across multiple lines of it is really disappointing. This usually happens just after a year of use. It just, the inside of it just gives, and there's a simple fix for it. You have to take off the front of the controller, and then you'll see that there's a plastic tab in like an upside down U shape. You want to take that out, fold it up and then reinsert it between the button and the actual button inside the controller. And what that will do is make it more clicky and more tight, so the button's getting activated with more pressure every time you press it. This will give you some more lifespan out of the controller, but eventually it will fault again after some time, and you will have to obviously replace or repair the controller. With that being said, if you're buying a premium product like this and you are having a struggle with issues with it like I have over the years, you're just gonna have to fork out the extra couple bucks to get the warranty. Amazon offers a warranty. I've used it several times to swap out my controllers, so I've actually had more than 3 of these if you want to talk about the swaps I've had. So definitely something I recommend is the warranty when buying this product. It's worth the 20 bucks. It's better to pay 20 than 150 again and again and again, because the controllers just don't hold up the same way as keyboard or mouse, where it's like a one-time buy. The next thing I don't like about this controller, it is a little bit fragile. It has a metal thumbsticks and stuff like that. They've done quite a bit of upgrades to the controller for quality of build, so I can't complain. But if you feel the plastic in this controller compared to a 360 controller, it's not even the same. Like, the plastic is just not, it doesn't feel as strong to me. And maybe I'm just crazy and thinking, oh, the old stuff's better, but it just doesn't feel the same. It does feel nicer in the hand and it feels lighter, but I just don't think it is strong. I don't think we had problems with the controllers the same way as we did here as we did back in the day with the Xbox One and the Xbox 360 and the original Xbox. Those controllers seemed a little bit more sturdy, and I think they're using different forms to try to make it stronger, but it's not working. They need to just use a better material. And the reason I know this is I drop my controllers frequently, unfortunately, and when they drop, after a while you'll be able to hear stuff shaking around in there, and that's a huge problem. I had opened up my old controller less than a week ago, and the handful of little parts of plastic that was broken inside of it was quite discouraging, and that can actually jam up buttons, especially the LT and RT buttons on your controller. Of course, we have the dreaded stick drift. I will say stick drift is not a huge problem on this controller like it was on the other ones. I seen an improvement personally, and I think the reason I seen an improvement, the biggest reason, is the amount of care I've given it. I put the controller back on its charger when it's done, and if I travel with it, I put it in its case. And what this does is it pretty much makes sure that I don't drop it on its face and damage the analog sticks. A lot of people get stick drift because they drop their controller. It's not always a fault of the controller. You guys just don't notice it, but over some time, yes, the controller will also get stick drift. That as well as it's another error that we see repeated over the controllers in the Xbox series. And of course, I don't like the high cost. 150 USD for a controller is kind of ridiculous. It's a big chunk of the price of the actual console. So this is a premium product. It's not for your average kid gamer or anything like that. If you're trying to get a competitive edge, you're gonna have to pay a competitive edge's price, and that's where the Elite controller comes to. And they kind of have us by the because the Turtle Beach Stealth controller just doesn't compare. The Pro Fusion controller doesn't compare. The Astros T40 controller or whatever does not compare. They don't feel the same in the hand. The Elite controller just did it best in my opinion, and I think a lot of gamers know that, and that's why they keep buying the same controller even though it breaks, because when you go to the alternatives, which I have, they are not the same. So just stick to what you know, stick to what works best for you. If you like the alternatives and you're finding a better quality, please let me know in the comment section below. But that's kind of the things I dislike about this controller, is that they kind of have monopoly over the product because of the quality of the product is actually good, especially when it comes to performance and feel. So is the Elite controller still worth buying after 3 years of use? Would I tell you guys to buy it? Well, I think yes, it's likely worth buying for those gamers that are looking to get a competitive edge and are looking for a more premium product. I just feel like the value of the paddles, the profiles on board, the adjustable thumbsticks, profiles in general, the button mapping you can do, all of that with the charging and lifespan of the batteries, it's just kind of like, it's worth it. It's just worth it as a gamer that plays the game consistently. However, if you're only a casual gamer that's playing, basic RPGs and you just don't care about the competitiveness of the game, then this is way out of line. You do not need this to enjoy your average game. You don't need this to play Split Fiction. You don't need this to play, you know, Human Fall Flat or whatever games you guys are playing. Those basic fun games, this is not going to give you an edge, especially because of the high potential of it breaking over time and the high cost. It's like, you know, you're going to have to replace it eventually, especially if you don't get a warranty. As a casual gamer, this is not the investment I would make. The only time I'd probably get this as a casual gamer is if I got like a crazy sale on Amazon or Walmart or something like that, or I had extra points and I wanted to upgrade my controller with my Walmart rewards points or something like that, or if I got an Amazon gift card, like I might, you know, splurge. But to be fair, if you're looking this up, you probably need it because you're probably looking for a competitive edge. You probably want to know, hey, is this worth my money? Am I going to get value out of it to, you know, be better? It is called an Elite controller for a reason, and I think you guys know at the end of the day that this is something you probably want. So definitely think it's worth it. All my friends have them. I have had several of them. I obviously think it's a product worth having. So that's kind of going to wrap up my review. I think I've given you everything I can think of about the controller that I think has value, what it comes with. You know, it doesn't come with the paddles included. It doesn't come with the case. It doesn't come with the charging dock. It's going to come with, you know, the 2 thumbsticks, the cool dome D-pad, and that's about it, and a charging cable. So if you want the paddles, you have to buy them separate. If you want the charging base and case, you're gonna have to buy those separate too. Now in this holiday season is obviously going to be one of the better times to pick it up, as it is on sale in the link in the description box below. You guys can always check there to see if there's a discount, and of course take advantage of things like Honey to see price history and stuff like that, to see if you guys can snag this for a really good deal. If you found this video helpful, please do drop a like, and of course let me know in the comment section what you thought about the review, what I could have done better, what you think of the product, and information that you feel like I missed that I should have shared with you guys for future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next